That's why no one's here. No. My friends are here, half the room. I'm actually grateful to be asked to do anything in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been doing this for a long time, and I just never know how this is going to go. So, I used to be able to share in a linear way, like what happened, what it used to be like, what happened, what it's like now. But my brain doesn't work that way anymore. So now I just hop around a lot, so you have to keep up. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I actually was not scheduled to be here tonight, but a friend of mine called me and asked me to switch with him, and I said yes before I checked my schedule because I was supposed to be at bingo tonight with everybody else, okay? Anyway, I'm here because Alcoholics Anonymous taught me to live up to my commitments. If I make a commitment to do something, then, I was not ever taught that it was optional whether or not I showed up. I was told, you make a commitment, which means you're going to be there no matter what. So in any event, I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for my friends that showed up for me tonight. I never know how I'm going to get started, so we'll just see where this goes. And, if I don't say anything that resonates with anybody here tonight, I can promise you there will be another speaker here next week. So please come back. And in any event, I grew up in Ventura. I'm a local girl, and nothing remarkable about that other than, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm not sure about this too much because I forget about it, but I came from an alcoholic family like a lot of us do. My dad was alcoholic as long as I can remember, and my mom was an untreated Al-Anon until I was about 10, and then she decided, can't beat him, join him, so she started drinking also. And that was room for a good resentment, because prior to that, everything was blamed on my dad's drinking. I don't know about you guys that have come from dysfunctional families, but I hear stories about how people are in denial, or it's a secret, or we don't talk about it. Not in my family. Anybody that lived within 5 miles of us knew we were drunks. I mean, it was just no secrets there. In any event, I grew up here, and by the time I was in high school, I was over at Buena High School, and I had a friend that got a bunch of tickets, and he decided, it was my best friend's boyfriend, and he decided to go down to Mexico and buy some pills and sell them, and of course we were going to help him sell them. And needless to say, I got busted, and in high school in 1969, if you had anything to do with any kind of chemicals, it was bad. And so they expelled me from the entire school system. And the only thing that's remarkable about that is that this is what happened. So I go down to I'm at the police station, my mom comes down there, and two of the people that I had sold some of these pills to, one was sitting in jail because she was 18, the other one, a couple of other people were sitting in juvenile hall. And my mom told the detective, my husband's an alcoholic, he's about to have surgery, we know that if he finds out about this, he won't have the surgery. And so will you let her come home with me? And they did. And the detective said, I hope you realize there's somebody sitting in jail right now because of you and somebody else in juvenile hall. And so that really was, the only reason I bring that up is that those are the kind of things that continued to happen to me when I was drinking. I would get in trouble and get away with it. And so I was able to use that as a way to deny that I really had a problem, and that if I was ever as bad as you, I would do something about it. So in any event, fast forward, it was the 60s, it was a crazy time, and I tend to like a little heroin and cocaine with my booze. And so I ended up in my first treatment program when I was 19 years old at Camarillo State Hospital. And prior to that, in order to get out of that alcoholic home, I had met somebody that liked to party like I did. I was drinking Bacardi 151 and doing heroin, and he was doing speed, and it was a match made in heaven. And so we ended up getting drunk and getting loaded and boxing on a regular basis. So I escaped from that relationship by going into this treatment program at Camarillo State Hospital because I went to the County of Ventura and asked for help, and they basically said, we don't have a problem here. We don't know what to do for you. And so I went into this program at Camarillo State Hospital, where I promptly met a new boyfriend. And I left with him, and then we moved to the beautiful town of Isla Vista. Nice community to get sober in. And so we moved up there with some other people, and we started a business. We had an organic bakery, and, you know, everything was going along really well for a while. And then eventually, you know, we were going to the bars, and we were drinking, and then we were doing drugs on top of that. And so a year later, I was back in Camarillo State Hospital. And because I really left there at 19 years of age thinking, okay, I know what the problem is now. I just need to stay away from those people that do those things, and I'll move away. And it was all about the outside things. I don't know about anybody else here, but I came into this program convinced that the problem was everything out there. It was the alcoholic home I came from. It was whether I had a boyfriend or not. It was whether I had money or not. It was, you know, it was all about outside things. And Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, they shocked me. They said, no, that's not, you are the problem. So welcome to our newcomer, and congratulations to our chip takers. And for anybody that's new or nearly new, I have some good news and some bad news. And the good news is that your life is about to get better in ways you can't even imagine. And the bad news is you will never be able to drink again with complete abandon like you once did prior to coming to AA. We will totally screw up your drinking forever. And so I was told to sit down, shut up, take the cotton out of my ears and put it in my mouth. I was told, you're new, you don't know anything about sobriety, so you don't need to say, I mean, now they tell newcomers, you should share at every meeting. They told me to keep my mouth shut. And I got here when I was 25 years of age, and I weighed about 30, 40 pounds less than I do now. And my brother used to say that I looked like somebody had taken a toilet plunger to the back of my head. I was all sucked up, and cute as could be. And I really couldn't imagine a life without alcohol and other substances. I had tried everything that I had ever heard of to try to turn my life around and change, and I couldn't do it. I can't tell you why I felt the need to be numb and preferably unconscious. I hadn't had a horrible childhood where horrible things happened to me. I was never raped or molested or a victim of incest or some of the stories that I hear around here. None of those things happened to me. Even though my dad was alcoholic, he went to work, he provided for us. You know, we were crazy, the whole crew, but but for some reason, by the time I was 19, 20 years old, I needed to be unconscious. And then it got to the point where if I didn't get what I needed every day, I would be very sick. And so I would wake up in the morning and I would think, oh my God, I'm going to have to do it again. I'm going to have to get up and do it again. I'm going to have to start all over again. Where am I going to get the money to get well? How am I going to get it? Who am I going to have to lie to, steal from, manipulate, lie to? You know, it was just a horrible existence. And I would lay my head down at night and think, God, I hope I don't wake up tomorrow. I just hope I don't wake up tomorrow, because I had absolutely no hope of ever changing my life. And I didn't think that there was any way that I was ever going to be able to turn that around. So I understand the hopelessness that comes with this disease. I understand the demoralization and the shame and the guilt. And by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was so full of self-hatred. I just felt so unworthy. And I started going to meetings. Well, I should back up and just say that when I was 5 years old, my dad went to AA, and he got sober for 3 years. And then he decided to start drinking again, and it took him 18 years to get back. In the meantime, by the time I was 23, my mom had gotten sober, and she started driving around with these weird stickers on her bumper, you know, like, easy does it, to thine own self be true, think. all those crazy things they used to hang up in Alano clubs. And she would talk about, AA, and I would say, well, how often do you go to those meetings? And she'd say, I go every day if I need to. And I would say, well, that's just another crutch. And she'd say, then I'll take two. Oh, God. And I just was so convinced that it would not work for me. But what ended up happening is that guy that I had met in Camarillo State Hospital, we lived together and drank and used and partied together for 6 years. And then he finally moved out and said, you're an animal. I can't live with you anymore. I was so offended. I got him in the nut house. Come on. And... Really? And so he left, and I ended up in this empty apartment in West Hollywood, really, a nice neighborhood right around the corner from the Pussycat Theater, and right down the street from the methadone clinic, can't forget that. And so, like I said, the Bacardi 151, I wanted to get there right now. That was what I was aiming for. It was not fun. It was not about partying. It was all about isolation, being alone, and being unconscious. And I started somewhere during this time calling my mother, and I don't remember any of this, and, telling her I wanted to die. And she started talking to me about AA, and I said, that's great, Mom, for you, but I'm different. It won't work for me. I've already tried programs. I've tried different things. Nothing works. And she said, if you're willing to go to these meetings, you can come home, meaning back to Ventura, because I was living in West Hollywood at the time. And I didn't have anywhere else to go. I didn't have a better offer from anybody anywhere, so I didn't have any other option. And so I moved back, and I started going to meetings. Now, the first meeting I went to was at, I think it was in Alano, maybe it wasn't Alano, it was in Wagon Wheel. That's how long ago it was. Wagon Wheel's not even there anymore. But it was a breakfast meeting, and everybody had gray hair, and I was 25 years old, and I went, oh my God, this is not gonna work for me. And I started going to meetings, and I couldn't quit drinking. I could not get sober. I would go to meetings loaded, I would go to meetings drunk, I would slide off my chair, I would spill coffee, I would drool on myself, and people said, Linda, keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. No one ever told me I couldn't go to a meeting because I'd been drinking, and I always say that's like telling a sinner not to go to church, I mean, we're here because we're alcoholic, we're here because we can't quit drinking. And so, I started, I was going to these meetings, and I finally had my first miracle. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about spirituality because, I think that is the basis and the crux of our program. I think this program is divinely inspired. By the way, welcome to As Linda Sees It, because that's what you're going to get tonight. So, I started going to meetings, and I couldn't get sober, and people just told me to continue to keep coming back. And so what happened was all this stuff was coming out of my system. I was physically very sick, and my mom called this friend of hers. Her name was Meg Fong. She's now deceased, and she was a little spitfire with lots of tattoos and body piercings and an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was sitting there with the tears rolling down my cheeks going, I can't quit. I don't know what's wrong. I'm not going to be able to do this. And she came over and she took me in the other room and she said, I want you to get on your knees with me and we're going to pray. And I was like, we're going to what? And I didn't know it then, but what we did was a third step prayer. And it was the most sincere, honest, heartfelt prayer I've probably ever prayed. And it was simply, God, if you're there, please help me because I'm going to die. Because I knew I couldn't quit. And so for me, I was fortunate enough to have a miraculous experience in that sometime during the next day, most of the day had gone by, and I suddenly had this awareness that the obsession to drink and use was gone, just like that. And it has never come back. So I was very blessed and very fortunate that I'm not somebody that had to fight the obsession. I don't think that I could have ever done that, and I'm always amazed by people who do. When people say, just sit on your hands until it stops hurting, it's like, what? That's not going to happen for this girl. And so it was really a miracle. And so I came to believe very easily in this power greater than myself because I had no other experience like that in my life. In any event, I was at a meeting one night. I walked in late, and this woman who became my first sponsor, she's a crazy redhead, kind of like me, and she said, why are you late? And I said, well, I was busy. She said, we don't do that here. You know, you show up on time, you get here early, you help set up the meeting, you thank the speaker, you wish the birthday people happy birthday, and when the meeting's over, you get in that kitchen and wash ashtrays and coffee cups, because that's what we did back then. And she said, here's a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I want your inventory in 90 days. Call me if you have any questions. It's like, whoa, boot camp. You know, it was not, I mean, I was very fortunate, I think, to have very strong people around me that were totally involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. They told me what to do. They told me how to do it. They told me when to do it. They told me where to do it. I was so skinny when I got here, they made me go out with them after meetings to eat. No, and then after about 30 days, they said, you can stop now. I think I gained 30 pounds my first 30 days. In any event, so I like to talk about the steps because the steps are, and you know what? I don't have a watch on tonight. Will somebody let me know when it's 5 to 8? Thank you. Okay. In any event, I like to talk about the steps because I believe that our program is divinely inspired, and you know, we have these spiritual principles that we try to practice because, you know, you take an alcoholic and you take away their chemicals, you take away their booze and anything else that they may be into, and what are you left with? Now I'm sober. I don't have any of the things that I use to cope or not cope, and now what? I still don't know what to do with fear. I still don't know what to do with insecurity. I still don't know what to do with anger and resentment. You know, what am I going to do now? I can't drink. I can't take anything. I was told this is a program of total abstinence. I went, what's that? And they said, we don't take anything that affects us from the neck up. I was like, what? What do you mean? You mean you don't even have a beer once in a while? You don't smoke a joint once in a while? Nope, we don't do that. And I remember the woman who told me that, and I said, well, then this program will never work for me. And I marched out all self-righteous, and I went home, and I said, Mom, you're not going to believe what those people told me. She said, Linda, just keep coming back. You know? In any event, so I was introduced to the steps, and I was told to get involved. You know, one thing that I was told is that, you know, when I first got sober, I didn't know anything about spiritual principles. I hadn't developed any kind of a relationship with God. You know, I stayed sober. When I think back now, I really stayed sober on the love of the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous because people welcomed me. No one had welcomed me in a long time. You did not invite me to your house, right? So one of the first things that happened was this woman who became my sponsor, she invited me to come over after the meeting they were having a birthday party for somebody, and I was like, I got invited. I mean, it's like, really? And I got to her house. I was all excited. I'm going to get to go to this birthday party with all these sober people. And she said, "Come on in here." And she put me in the kitchen and made me start washing her dishes. And it was like, be of service. That's what we do here. We get involved. And I didn't know how to do anything else, but I knew how to wash dishes. So I was told to get commitments and to do these things. No one ever told me it was optional. One of the first things she did was that when I had about 30 days, she said, get up and get dressed on Saturday morning. We're going to come pick you up. I said, why? She said, we're going to take you on a panel. I said, panel? What's a panel? She said, that's where we carry the message into institutions to people who can't get out to go to a meeting. I said, why? She said, that's how we stay sober. She said, if you have a commitment to carry the message to another alcoholic, it may be the one thing that keeps you sober that day, because the day may come when you don't want to go to a meeting, you don't want to read the book, you don't want to call your sponsor, you don't want to do any of the things that we do here. But if you have a commitment to carry the message, you might just stay sober. Besides, we're going to Atascadero State Hospital, you should feel right at home. So that was my first panel. And I have been involved in H&I work ever since. And so getting back to the steps, coming to believe that, I'm an alcoholic, that's all about acceptance, accepting the fact that I cannot control and enjoy my drinking, and God knows I tried. I did everything I could to control and enjoy, my using and abusing. And anything that'll alter the way I feel, I am going to abuse it. And coming to believe that my life was unmanageable was a little harder because I thought that alcohol and other substances were the problem. And so if I got rid of those, I wouldn't have any problems. You told me that if I didn't drink or use, no matter what, my life was going to get better. What I heard was if I didn't drink or use, no matter what, everything was going to go my way. And it didn't work out that way. So, my life, I had to realize that, no, my life is unmanageable because I live with this. Now, I know all of you have a nice, serene, calm mind, but mine's like a freaking squirrel cage. It just goes all the time. And for a long time, for many years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought that I was a slave to my thinking because my thinking is what affects my feelings, and my feelings is what affects my behavior. And what I am learning, and even to this day I'm trying to practice, is that if I don't like how I'm feeling, what am I thinking about? Because guess what? I can change it. I never knew that before. So, I need to be doing something that alters the way that I think. And getting involved and getting out of self is the best way to do that. There is a line in the big book. It starts at the bottom of page 14 and goes over to 15, and it says, if I can say it right, it says, if an alcoholic fails to enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice with others, he will surely be unable to face the trials ahead. That's pretty much, so if I'm not sharing this message, if I'm not actively working with another alcoholic, if I'm not being of service in AA, that means I'm still being self-centered, I'm still being selfish, and I'm still taking. And the sad part about that is the greatest joy that I get and the greatest fulfillment that I've experienced and the purpose that I have in my life today is a direct result of what I do for others in AA. I mean, why else would I be here, right? It was all about Bill looking for an alcoholic he could help when he found Dr. Bob, and that was the foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're not actively working with other alcoholics, you're kind of missing the whole point of why we're here, but more importantly, the greatest benefits, the greatest joy that we get is when we get to watch somebody else get the gift. And it is a gift. I firmly believe that my sobriety is a gift, and that I was only given the gift so that I could share it with other people. Because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. That's what I was taught. In any event, that first step was all about acceptance, and I have had to learn that my life is very unmanageable today if I don't seek the help of a higher power and I don't continue to do the things I've been taught to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. The second step is all about faith. That, we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves. Like I said, I was very fortunate in that I was able to have that spiritual experience of the obsession being removed, and so I knew there was a God. I knew there was a higher power. Today, my higher power is the creative spirit of love, and I believe that that spirit of love is within all of us, each of us, as us. Every religion that I've studied and spiritual material I've studied talks about God being love. God is love, God is love, God is within, God is within. So if the love of God is within me, the love of God is within you. My challenge is to see that, right? Not the judgments and the criticisms and the things I look at when I think you're not doing it right, right? So that's, that, I get off topic, told you, keep up. Anyway, so the second part of that step is, and I always tell this story when I speak, is that it talks about, being restored to sanity. Now, I ate with crazy people 3 times a day in Camarillo State Hospital, so I knew what crazy looked like. And I told my sponsor, I'm not crazy. Those people are crazy. And she said, well, think about some of the things you did when you were drinking. And I remember one night that I was very sick, and I went out to get what I needed to get well, and I was coming back, and I was driving through Hollywood, and it was late at night, but it was very well lit up, Hollywood and Vine, and I hear a thud. And I know my eyes are open, and I look, and there's this guy laying in the street, long hair, beard, a little dirty, my kind of guy. And I get out, and I'm like, oh my God. My thought isn't, did I kill somebody? My thought is, oh my God, I'm going to jail now. And I have never been to jail, so that was kind of a shocking, moment for me. In any event, I get this guy out. I've got him up doing jumping jacks, telling him, look, I work in a doctor's office. I can get you all the drugs you want. I took him home and got him loaded, and a week later he called and asked me out. True story. And I always think someday that guy's going to stand up in a meeting and go, that was me. And all of that while my boyfriend was in bed asleep. So in any event, that was the insanity of my disease, and that was just one little thing. I mean, there were so many things that happened that I'm very grateful that I'm here and that I wasn't harmed in a number of ways. So we go on, and that's about faith, and we go on to that third step, which is about surrendering and making a decision to turn our will and our life over to God. Well, I'm really glad that someone pointed out to me that was only a decision. It wasn't that I was going to have to become a nun and go work and, sacrifice my life for some higher spiritual meaning, although that's fine if you want to do that. I just knew it wasn't going to happen for me. And I was glad that I didn't have to earn God's love. I didn't have to be good enough, because I thought I was going to have to be good enough in order to have a relationship with God, that I was going to have a lot of self-sacrifice and denial of my earthly desires or whatever. No, it only says we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, and we do this to the best of our ability. And the way that I do that is by practicing the rest of these steps in these spiritual principles in my life. Prior to coming to AA, I didn't know anything about spiritual principles, and so that's what I learned here, and that's why I like to talk about them. So, my friend made it. In any event, so we go on, and that fourth step is about, doing that inventory, and that's about, honesty. It takes a lot of honesty to look at ourselves and our resentments and how it affected us and what we could have done differently, and, and even you can even get some beginning of an amends list from that inventory if you do it right. And so I did several before I did it the way it says to do it in the big book. But in any event, going on and sharing that with somebody else, that was all about honesty. But when I got to that fifth step, now it's about courage. Because now I got to share it with somebody. I got to reveal these things to somebody that I swore I never would talk about, the things that I had done. I have listened to so many inventories over the years now. Trust me, my inventory wasn't anything. I have heard it all. And so if you're afraid of sharing that, there's somebody here that has done or heard exactly what you're sharing, and we don't care. I look at it this way. When I'm getting ready to listen to an inventory, I know it's going to go in this ear and out this ear. I don't want to remember my own crap. Why would I want to remember yours? Right? And then we go on to 6 and 7, which is about the willingness to have these defects of character removed. And I thought I was going to have to work on those defects now that I'm sober and I've done this inventory and I can see all my flaws and shortcomings. Of course, at that point, my whole character was a defect, so anything was better. And, thank God it says in the 7th step, we humbly ask God to remove our defects, because I don't have the ability to get rid of those things. If I did, I wouldn't need Alcoholics Anonymous, and I certainly wouldn't need a relationship with a higher power. But I will say, I always like to ask this question when I share in a meeting: how many of you have had all your defects of character removed? Not one. Isn't that amazing? So, I am someone who believes that my defects are out of the way when I'm working with another alcoholic. And as soon as I'm done being of service to somebody else, I get them back. And so that's my take on defects of character. And I will tell you this, it's like a scale. You've got these assets and you've got these defects. And when I was newer in sobriety, the defects far outweighed the assets. And over the years, that has shifted. But guess what? It's all about timing. It's all about timing, because what may be a defect in one, or what may be an asset in one, I'll give you an example. If you manage a business like I did for a long time, and you have to supervise other people and problem solve and fix things, that ability can be an asset. But when you go home and you try to control somebody else, now it becomes a defect. So it's all about the timing for me. Anyway, 8 and 9 are all about forgiveness and freedom. They're about making those amends. One of the best things I learned later in sobriety about making the amends is to write out a script where I'm very clear and I have to tell people this all the time. What harm did you do? Because it's not about everybody I ever said an unkind word about or resentment that I had about something somebody did. It's about what harm did I do? I need to make it right. And so we go through and we make those amends. Some of them are financial, some of them are emotional. For me, the hardest ones were to the people who loved me the most, because they're the ones I hurt the most. They cared about me and loved me and hated to see me self-destruct. And I was absolutely powerless to do anything else. So in any event, we make those amends, and then the 10, 11, and 12 are the maintenance steps. That with step 10, it's about perseverance, so we continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. That has gotten easier over the years. It used to be, my program was defend, deny, and justify. I like those, defend, deny, and now it's just so much easier to go, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And now I start to preface things. I say, I could be wrong, but, because half the time I am. In any event, 11 is about prayer and meditation, and that's about patience. Praying for knowledge of God's will for me. That's an ongoing daily, practice for me. And step 11 is probably the step that I practice more sincerely than any of the others. And then in step 12, it's about love. Now we get to give back what's been given to us. We carry this message to somebody else, and now we really get to reap the rewards of what Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer us. Having had a spiritual awakening, my awakening is this. Alcohol and drugs took away my humanity. It took away my ability to care about another human being. It took away my ability to have compassion or kindness or patience or honesty or generosity or any of those qualities that I have come to value. But Alcoholics Anonymous gave that back to me. Now, in all honesty, I don't even know that it gave it back. I don't know that I ever really had it. I started drinking and using it at a young age, and I hadn't had time to develop anything positive for myself. But I can tell you that Alcoholics Anonymous has not only restored me to sanity, it's restored me to humanity. And today I have compassion, and I have empathy, and I have the ability to care about other people. And, I used to, it used to be if I practice an act of some kind of generosity, it was because I was people-pleasing and I needed your approval or I wanted you to like me. And today I can say if I do something kind for somebody else or generous, it's because I genuinely want to do something kind for you. And that's, those are things that I was incapable of before I came to AA. How much time do I have left? Okay. Well, now I need to talk about some of the good stuff. That's how I stay sober. That's how I stay sober today, and I continue to do those things today that I was taught to do in the very beginning. What I see happen around here is that we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, most of us are pretty broken, pretty down on our luck, and have lost a lot of things or people, and then we start to get busy, and we start to get these new lives, and we start to get these new friendships and these commitments and all these wonderful things that happen as a result of not drinking. And then we start to get careers and businesses and families and kids and educations, and all life is in session, and all these things are going on. And pretty soon, I'm too tired to go to a meeting tonight. I got kids I got to get ready for school. Oh, I worked so hard today. I'll go to a meeting next week. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been to a meeting, but I'm not thinking about drinking. I haven't thought about drinking. Everything's fine. I'm good. AA has given me a good life. I'm in a good place. It's good. 6 months goes by. I still haven't gone to a meeting. And, I can't call my sponsor because nothing's wrong. What am I going to talk to her about? Hi, how are you? I haven't called her in 4 months. I certainly can't call her now. So I haven't called my sponsor. I'm not going to meetings. And, I'm out to dinner one night, And a glass of wine, I haven't thought about drinking in years. I'll bet I could have a glass of wine with dinner, and it's that subtle. Alcoholism never comes in the front door. It always sneaks around the back when you're not paying attention. And so in order for me not to forget that, I have to attend meetings regularly. And I love to go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the fellowship. I love the meetings. I love, everything about it. And, if you say to me that you love Alcoholics Anonymous, show me. How do you demonstrate your love for this program? What do you give back? Are you somebody that comes in and hits a meeting once in a while and says hi to your friends and has a little social fun once in a while and doesn't think about the newcomer and doesn't give back and doesn't have commitments? Then we're still taking. We're still being selfish and self-centered. But more importantly, we're robbing ourselves of the gift that we get when we do those things. So that's the reason I do them. Not because I'm virtuous, not because I'm better, smarter, or more spiritual than anybody else. I do those things because they make me feel good. I drank and used drugs because I wanted to feel good. Actually, I didn't want to feel at all. But my point is, the more I do for my sobriety, the more involved I am, the more committed I am, the better I feel. I'm the one who gets the rewards from that. Sponsorship has taught me, so many things. We were talking before the meeting about one of the greatest lessons that I had to deal with sponsorship was learning how to separate somebody's behavior from who they are. Because I used to see everything in black and white, good or bad, right or wrong. No gray. You either were right, wrong, good, or bad. And I was very judgmental about that, and I had very strong opinions about that. And I had to learn through the women I sponsored, I might really dislike or disapprove of somebody's behavior, and I fell in love with them anyway. AA taught me that. I think we call it unconditional love, which means that, we are not judged by the things that we do. Or the places we've been, or we don't really care where you come from, how much money you have, what your sexual orientation is, where you got your education or no education, whether you're single or married or gay, or we don't care. Alcoholism didn't care. Alcoholism is no respecter of persons. It doesn't care. It can strike anybody at any time, anywhere. But that means Alcoholics Anonymous can do the same. We have a program here that really works. And as a result of doing all of this and having this fabulous life, I have been able to walk through some very difficult, challenging times in my sobriety and not even think about drinking. And I've had more joy and more fun than anybody has a right to. So real quickly, my mother, my father, and my brother have all passed away now. When I first got sober, my mom was sober, then I got sober, then I started hauling my brother around to meetings and he got sober. And then my youngest brother said, I don't want to end up in AA, and he just quit drinking. And then my dad got sober again. So now my whole family's sober, and we had a lot of fun. We went to meetings together, barbecues and parties, and there are people in this room that actually knew my folks and my family, and it was a really special time. I was very blessed with that early in sobriety. But since then, I've been married and divorced and married and divorced in that order. And those have been challenging times when I was going through that. When I'm facing something like a divorce, loss of a job, health problems, any of those things that are painful, and my first go-to is fear. And thank God, God works through you as you to help me. Because that's when people come to me and say, Linda, you're going to be okay. They remind me of what I forget. God's got you. You are going to be okay. You just don't drink no matter what, and it's going to be okay. And I can honestly say that in every situation, because all of those things have happened to me. I've been married, I've been divorced, I've lost a job, I've had brain surgery, I've gone through the death of friends and family, all of those things that were really challenging and difficult and painful, and I never even thought about drinking. But, and I just lost my train of thought, and that's okay. It may or may not come back. So, in any event, those things have happened, and we're able to face life's challenges with sobriety and with the love and the support of the people in this fellowship. I have never gone through anything alone, ever, and I try to do the very best I can to show up for other people. Oh, I just got emotional, which is rare for me. Somebody told me I was a badass, and I went, yeah. It's all an illusion, folks. In any event, you know, sometimes I am moved to tears by how wonderful this program is. And, you know, on top of all those things that have happened, I set out to have a lot of fun. Camping, water skiing, wakeboarding, snowboarding, snow skiing, joined a ski club, physical therapy, learned how to fly airplanes, ride motorcycles, scuba diving. What else have I done? And now I'm too old to do all that, so I travel. So this year I went to Italy, Croatia, Montenegro, Spain, Portugal, and I just got back from Morocco. So, you know, I just have to say, so I've been traveling, you know, quite a bit in the last few years. I'm somebody that not only could I not get off the couch, I couldn't get off the floor. So, you know, for me to have the life that I have today and to be able to have these experiences, it is nothing short of a miracle. And, you know, if it's possible for me, it's possible for everybody. And that's the message that I have. My experience is what I've shared with you tonight. My strength comes from the things that I have experienced and walked through, and can honestly say that, you know, I didn't have to drink through any of them, and I didn't have to go through them alone. But what I really want to leave you with is the hope. The hope that if it can work for me, it can work for you. Thank you.
Let's thank our speaker, Linda, again.